Today I'm making this video because I disagree with almost every similarly titled YouTube video I've watched regarding the top 3 financial books, or the top 2, top 5. A lot of them are going to direct you to stock analysis or the intellectual investor. They're going to direct you to buying stocks, looking at stocks. Are bonds better than stocks? How many stocks should I own versus bonds? And that's something that I just hear throughout the whole industry. Now, I'm a financial planner, and I often get this question: where do I start with investing? What should I do? What should I be buying? What should I do, basically? And it's a pretty vague question. I have no idea what someone should do other than they should get educated. So, the 3 books, if I was going to make this really simple, that someone wanted to read, that's what I wanted to get into today on this video, and I want to let you know why the other books that are recommended aren't the greatest books to start with. First of all, the other books are basically recommending that you invest in stocks. I mean, they're not coming straight out and saying it, but when the very first book they recommend to you is a book to analyze stocks, then you're probably heading in the wrong direction when it comes to investing. The investments that are out there that someone is has available to them to invest in is far bigger than just stocks. I mean, you got all kind of categorizes inside of real estate, as far as fix and flip, long term, buying farmland, multifamily, commercial, buildings. Then you have things like promissory notes, precious metals, annuities. You can invest in currencies. You can invest in blockchain assets, investing in small businesses through friends or partnerships, intellectual property. I mean, I could go on, and inside all those categories, there's smaller categories that you could break it up into. And some people do all their business and all their investing in just one subcategory of one of these categories. So, not to make this video huge, but wanted to explain a little bit about why I recommend these 3 books. You've probably heard of them, but maybe not. So the 3 books that I want to recommend are going to be pretty easy reads. 2 of them are easy, and then the last one might be a little bit tougher of a read, but should be something that you could get through pretty quickly. Another thing to keep in mind is that these 3 books are all available on Audible, so it's something you can listen to while you're in your car. The first 2 take somewhere in between an hour to 2 hours to get through the Audible, and the last book is definitely longer. I think it's around 11 hours to get through that Audible, but it's history, so you can sit back and listen to it and skip some parts if you want. The first book that I wanted to recommend is George S. Clausen's Richest Man in Babylon. The reason I want to mention this book first, and I recommend it to everyone who asks for information about investing, is because most of the people that ask me about investing and want to just general knowledge about investing, they usually don't have assets that they can invest. A lot of times they have more debt. They might have some assets. They may have 10, 20, 30,000 in the bank, but they also have 10, 20, 30,000 or 200,000 in home loans and credit card debt. And once we actually do a fact finder on these individuals, we find that the financial advice we need to give them is pretty simple. I mean, you can get 20% by paying off your credit card. I mean, this is a no-brainer. So I'm recommending this book because to give you the cliff notes of what's in this book is it's kind of known for this idea of paying yourself first. It's in one of the first few chapters. It goes over someone who was in debt and how he got out of debt. And basically what he did is he paid himself before he paid any of his creditors. He paid himself before he paid or bought anything for him or his family. And in doing that, basically what that is breaking down is that out of every check you have a certain amount, whether in this scenario, in this book, it's 10%. So if he got $100, he'd put 10 away into assets that he kept for himself for working that week or month, and he would take the other portion and use that to pay his creditors, use that to pay for his living expenses. And that's kind of the core principle that you need to start with, because investing is very simple. Simply put, you need to have assets to invest, and you need to be worth more than, even on paper, you need to be worth more than zero. Otherwise, you're kind of going in the wrong direction. I know there's a lot of people that talk about zero down, buying properties zero down and doing things. You don't need anything. You can do this on credit cards, blah, blah, blah. It's probably bad advice. So start with this book, get the core principles in this book, and then also that key one right at the beginning of making sure you always save at least 10%, kind of put that in the keeper zone, as I call it, and then let those assets slowly over time, they're going to accumulate, and you're going to have things come available to you that are just going to come across with time. You're going to have something like the neighbor just really wants to sell this $3,000 car, but he just only wants $1,000 for it because he's moving. I mean, those are the types of things that are like a no-brainer. If you have the cash, you could just write him a check, and then you turn around and sell it, and boom, there's an investment, and you made money. I mean, investing is pretty simple, but all investing starts at the core base of saving part of your income. So, very important book. The second book I'm going to recommend is Rich Dad, Poor Dad's Cash Flow Quadrant. Now, this book is a great book to analyze where you're getting your income from currently, and then also where you want to start putting some of those assets that you save, whether you want to put them in a business or in some other investment. Rich Dad, Poor Dad has a bunch of books underneath his intellectual property rights called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So the book that I'm recommending is Cash Flow Quadrant. So that's the one that you're going to want to try to find and read. So if you get these two books down, you're already going to have a great understanding of basic investing. If we wanted to go a little deeper in this direction and read that third book, it's a lot longer of a book, as I mentioned, available on Audible, like I mentioned. But this book is going to give you some history, and history might not repeat, but it rhymes. And this goes back about 2,000 years. It reviews things such as the gold standard. It reviews things such as where corporations got started and owning percentages of corporations, bubbles and bursts throughout history, banking and the evolution of banking, money printing, and the story of a guy named John Law who invented money printing and what happened there. So it goes back way in the past, shows you some things that have happened before, kind of where we are now, and some of our current history as well, and really gives you once you understand some of those things in that book, or you just have the story, you're going to be able to relate a little bit more to where we are today with our current financial system. And I believe if you have those principles in The Richest Man in Babylon, and then you move to that next book, and then you start planning where you want to get your income from, where you want to invest some of those assets that you get in a tax advantageous way by reading that Cash Flow Quadrant, and then you move on to that third book, The Ascent of Money, and have an overall history of where we are today. By far, this is the three core books that I would take on if you wanted to ramp up your knowledge about investing. The way I feel about these three books is that if you read them, you could really go back and read those first two books again. They're real easy reads, and they remind you of some core principles that never go away. And in addition, as far as analyzing things that come your way, whether through a financial planner or an estate planning lawyer or whoever it is, when you have these concepts down, it really allows you to be able to analyze those, and you're going to be far ahead of many people who are trying to analyze a stock and starting on their whole investing mindset by analyzing a stock. I mean, stocks can be analyzed pretty easily by reading these 3 books. If you understand them, then you're going to understand what stocks to buy and not to buy as a general concept. And then you can kind of dive into how to analyze the income statement and balance sheet of a stock company. So start with these 3 books. Leave some comments below if you have some questions, or if you feel like there's a different book that would serve just as well. And if you got a second, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Appreciate it.